Another day in the fish room. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I get rid of Camallanus redworm. Unfortunately, I have a couple cases of those in some of the tanks here, so I'll show you the treatment I use. And we're also going to be taking care of this row here. This kind of, these 3, 4 have been kind of holding tanks for this whole quarantine. I was supposed to sell and get rid of all the fish that were in them, but I can't just because of quarantine, and I don't think they're worth putting on the website. So we're gonna do something fun with these and get me enjoying this section again, because right now it's kind of been a row of, besides the super red angelfish, not happy with these 4 tanks here. I think we can utilize them better. So these tanks I'm not really enjoying right now or using them to their potential here in the fish room, except for this tank, which is one of my favorites with my super red koi angelfish. These are the breeders that I'm hoping a pair will form off, maybe 2 pairs. But the other tanks are kind of a mess right now. So if you remember, in this middle tank here, we had the red-tailed Dumbo ear guppies that I decided to not keep anymore. And a viewer was nice enough to meet up with me and take the whole colony. Those fish are now in a 75-gallon. I'm sure they're loving life instead of in this 20. This tank here has just been completely taken over by that random hygro species that I have. You can see it goes all the way back, and you can't really see the fish anymore, but the fish that are in here are the tequila sunrise guppies that I'm deciding to not work with anymore. I'd rather have other strains to work with when I'm, believe it or not, limited on tank space, even though I have close to 80 tanks at this point. These are the same thing, same issue, guppies that I just don't want to work with anymore. There's stir-by Corydoras in here that I was trying to breed, and you know, it's just, for me, Corydoras just don't seem to breed well for me, and it's more labor intensive than some other things that I like to breed, so I tend not to put too much attention to it. Same thing with a group of albino cories in this tank. I was able to get some fry out of these guys, and I'm not breeding them right now because my store has been delayed a little bit because of the quarantine, and I was planning on supplying my own store with the albino cories. I don't think I would ship these online just because they're, you know, an easily accessible and cheap fish, but if I could produce them for my store, I think that would have been good. So I'm going to keep the cories, but not in this tank. And this tank here was an attempt at a scuds tank. You could see we've got some fry in there, the Blue Daisy's rice fish by accident. And I think there's 2 Wapoga Red Laser fry also in there. I threw some mops in here that I thought didn't have eggs in it, and it turns out they did. The scuds are still in here, but they don't produce enough for me to feed any of my fish. So I think with that tank, I'm going to try to do a brine shrimp tank and have them try to reproduce in there, make it saltwater, and you know, I'd have to unhook the auto water change system and kind of have it producing live brine shrimp. You know, I could feed all different sizes. I could feed adults, I could feed juveniles, or I could feed the little babies if they reproduce in there. That would be something I think would be useful. I've been trying to have some kind of live culture in this tank. I've tried Daphnia, I've tried the scuds, and neither one worked for me, so I'm going to try brine shrimp. Corey from Aquarium Co-op, he makes it look kind of easier to do. Been following his blog about it, so I'm going to try it inside and see if that works. And this tank here, I think I'm going to put some grow out angelfish until they're big enough to go in the 75 with the other adult angelfish. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these 2 other tanks, but we'll see. Got the tanks cleared out here. You can see we cleaned the front of the glass on this tank so we can actually see the fish. This tank with the tequila sunrise guppies had some fry in it, and I didn't want to dump them into a bare tank with the adults because they'd probably get eaten, and I feel bad doing that, so they're just gonna stay out in here until they get a little bit bigger. Interesting thing about this tank was the sponge filter actually had no air to it for I don't know how long. I couldn't see the sponge behind all the plants, so that tank was actually functioning with all those guppies and corydoras with just the plants as the filtration. So that was pretty cool to see. In this tank we just moved the Vallicin area to the back. And this tank I think is going to be a whole day project. I'm going to have to research some more about the brine shrimp and how to set that up. Here's a closer look at the Tequila Sunrise guppies. Really nice guppy, just something that I don't think I want to pursue. And the albino cories, you can see the one going crazy is the fry that grew up in there. I didn't notice that. And also I didn't notice the fry of the guppies that I scooped up were in here as well. And they'll just be in here temporarily until I can rehome them. These are some new additions to the fish room. I got 6 platinum Pearlscale Angelfish. These guys actually arrived a day early, so I wasn't home to make sure I got them when they were delivered. So they actually sat outside for a couple hours. Thankfully, they all made it okay. It's been a couple days now and they've settled in quite nicely. They're eating well. These guys look really good. I'm looking forward to breeding these guys. I hope that, out of the 6 we could get at least 1 pair. But right now they're just in quarantine in this 10-gallon, and they'll move on to 20 as they grow out, and then ultimately 75. I also made all the boxes for this week's orders. Thank you guys so much for all your support. That allows me to do some improvements here in the fish room. As you can see here, this makeshift wall is not a wall, it's thick curtains that kind of help me section off this part of the basement so that I could heat it. And obviously this isn't a very efficient way to, insulate. So I'm actually now, because of all your support, I can now have a actual wall with insulation put there. So I'm really excited about that. The 2 tanks that have the Camallanus redworm are this tank here with the Celestial Pearl Danios. I just started losing them, I wasn't sure why. I started putting dewormers in, erythromycin, salt, and I think the salt really brought out at least the redworms to poke their heads out. I don't think it was killing them. The med trio that I use doesn't cover Camallanus redworm, so you have to get levamisole. I'm gonna get a better look at, it's also in this tank here, pretty bad. Let's see if I can focus in on one that has it. I can show you the worm sticking out. There, I think on this female right here. Kind of see, coming out of her, those worms. Yeah, you can get a good look right there. So they pretty much feed off the fish. It does kill them eventually if it goes untreated. You can see in here that some of the fish are already becoming casualties to it, and you can see that some of them are just like wasting away, like this little guy here. I just started treating this tank a couple days now, so the ones that are sticking out are dead, but when you have an infestation, you can see them moving around alive, sticking out of the fish like that. So I noticed that the Celestial Pearl Danios had it as well. Not sure how it cross-contaminated. Probably from one of the fish moving over, or maybe I used a net here and then used a net over there. But those are the 2 tanks that seem to have it right now. And any other fish, so like the 24 karat golds I have in a couple of tanks right now that may or may not have been exposed, so I'm treating them as well, just in case. I don't know if they came from the original colony of the 24 karat golds or not. In my opinion, the best place to get levamisole is from selectaquatics.com. You need to make sure that this medicine is not exposed to extreme temperatures, and it's also light sensitive. So I know that Greg is responsible and keeps it at the appropriate temperature and in the dark. You could order different size packets. I got the 20 grams because I'm probably going to be treating a lot of tanks. I'm not sure which other ones I cross-contaminated, but it comes in this dark pack. He sends you the instructions, treatment that he recommends that has worked. And you can also buy this scooper separately. I highly recommend that you get the scooper. I think it's just a couple bucks extra, but it's already dosed for you, 10 gallons and 15 gallons. If you don't buy the scooper, he has it dosed for a 100-gallon tank, and then you'd have to divide it up yourself, and then, it's probably not that accurate. These guys responded really well to the treatment right after the first day. I can already see the worms coming out and dying, so that's probably a huge relief to them. And I'm going to treat them for the recommended amount of time, and maybe one more time after that, because I do want to breed these guys. I want to make sure that they're in good, healthy condition. I originally had 3 of these and bred probably 200, sold a bunch off, and then just kind of had the colony sitting. But now a lot of you guys are requesting that I breed them, and a lot of people are interested on getting some from me from my website, so I figured I'd start breeding them again. These are one of my favorite fish, especially just because they're so pretty and they're so small. And when you get a bunch of them, they really are not as shy. So when I had 50 in here before I started losing some, they were always in the front of the tank and always greeting me, which is very unlike the Celestial Pearl Danio. They're more reclusive. That was another day in the fish room. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.